Hey guys, it's Pete from Pete from Anxiety here. Welcome to today's episode. I appreciate y'all being here so much. Let's talk about a few things real quick. The Pete vs. Anxiety Team Anxiety Facebook group. Are you a part of it? You're not? What are you waiting for? The link's down here in the description down below, or go to Facebook and search Pete vs. Anxiety. Then look for the Team Anxiety team page and join it today. Why not? You can join and help. It'll be great. Yeah, like right now. Hurry up. Stop what you're doing, pause this video, go do it right now. But anyways, let's also talk about the Pete vs. Anxiety YouTube page. If you're here right now, you're probably following it most likely. If not, head on over there, subscribe, be sure to like and comment on the videos and let me know, because all that stuff really helps, guys. I really appreciate it. And help me break the stigma that mental health is talked about enough. But anyways, guys, let's get into today's episode. Hope you all have a great one. Thank you so much again. And as I always say, don't ask how your day is, ask how your mental health is today.
Guys, welcome to an exciting episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. My guest today is a licensed clinical professional counselor, a soul guide for highly sensitive women, a business owner in Maryland and Delaware, and she's also the host of the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast. Please welcome in the one, the only Elizabeth Cush. How are you doing today?
I'm doing well. Thanks for having me on your podcast, Pete. I'm excited to be here.
Definitely. Well, why don't you let me know a little bit more about yourself, and then we'll get into your podcast and all that great stuff.
All right. Well, as you said, I'm a therapist and a life coach or soul support for highly sensitive women. I got into the work because I was a very anxious person for most of my life. And once I had kids, realized that it was important for me to understand how to manage my own anxiety and stress. And so went back to school and got some personal therapy and have, been kind of working on managing the anxiety pretty much my whole life that, feels like it's in a pretty good place right now.
Yeah, I agree. Mine's in a great place too. But that's the whole reason of Pete versus anxiety is I battle my anxiety every day. So every day is an adventure.
Yep. Yep. It is. It is. And it
So what
often sneaks in when you're not expecting it.
So what got you into, focusing mostly on women, like highly sensitive women too, and even at that? It's a very interesting topic to get into.
Yeah. Well, I learned later in life, probably my late 40s, maybe early 50s, that I was highly sensitive. So they're learning, I think, more and more as more research is done about high sensitivity, but it is considered a neurodivergent trait. And so people who are highly sensitive feel and notice sensory information at a much deeper level. So it could be
Oh, okay.
feelings, but it's also all sensory stimuli like sound and smell and taste and touch. And so um, we're very deep processors. We love, going deep in conversation, but also can feel very deeply as well. And so once I learned more about it, I recognized that so many of the clients that were reaching out to me also had high sensitivity as well. And so um, I think probably my website copy helped them feel seen or something. But, so it drew a lot of highly sensitive people to me. And so I've just continued to dive deeper into that work with my clients because it feels really important to validate them, but also to bring more awareness to what being highly sensitive really means.
Would you say
It
they're
doesn't
highly
just mean you get
energy
upset all
sensitive
the
too,
time.
though?
Yeah. Oh, totally. Totally. Pick up on others' energies for sure.
Yeah,
Yes. Yes. Very subtle. Um, I was thinking about this the other day. Just subtle energy shifts in other
yeah.
people can really, um, it can activate a lot inside yourself, right?
Hmm.
Like you're feeling it, but maybe you're not being able to identify exactly what shifted or
Yeah.
changed. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, see, I'm the same way, so that's why I can relate to that because that's how it was too. For me, it was this weird tingling feeling. Sorry, I'm not supposed to call it weird. After I met one of my other guests, she told me, "Don't call it weird because it's normal." But it was like a weird.
Yeah.
It was like a tingling feeling, like you knew something was in the air, that something was there,
Yeah.
like you felt the presence of something. And now
Yeah.
it's when people get close enough to me, I can feel if I don't like you, I got a real nasty pit in my stomach, and it's just one of those things I
Mm,
never could put my finger on what it was until I met a few guests that do energy work, and we were
yeah.
discussing it, and they were describing it to me, and I was like, okay, well, this is really fascinating because now it makes sense because I can read the
Mhm.
room a lot of times. I could look at most people, I can tell if something's wrong a lot of times. It's just that energy they give off, and then the principle of
Yes.
like the fact to have such a small inner circle though is because those are the people I want, and the other people that don't like my energy are the people that tend to fall off eventually because they just don't like what I'm giving out.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and I think and I don't know if you're highly sensitive or not, but I think too, highly sensitive people tend to have, yes, a very close-knit circle of people they trust, right? To
Yeah.
receive them, but also to be in relationship with because it's important to feel safe and feel safe energetically with the people that you're with.
Yeah, yeah. No, I'm
Yeah,
the same way though. I really just keep a small, close circle of people. I let
yeah,
people into the outer orbit. If you make it to the inner circle, then you've really made it to a level of trust, and that's hard for a lot of people to get to because I don't keep a lot of people in there.
yeah.
And it's just because all the things I've dealt with all my life. My ex betrayed me, so then it kind of really closed the circle down. Then I was like, yeah, I don't trust a lot of people because how do I know you don't have alternative motives and things like that too?
Totally. Oh, yeah. Well, and I think like what's interesting for me is that I think that because of my sensitivity, that when you're born with it, that
Yeah.
not everybody in my family really understood it. And so it was often like, you're too emotional or
Hmm.
you're making too much about this. And so I think that in many ways that probably contributed to my anxiety, just like oh, I have to shut these feelings down of big emotions or being overwhelmed by smells or not liking particular food because of texture, like feeling like I had to kind of tamper down who I was. And I think that kind of contributed
Yeah.
to the anxiety that I carried.
Yeah, I don't think I
Yeah.
had a real big texture thing. I'm open to try any kind of foods. I don't think any of that really affects me really too much. But I could see that though. A lot of sensitive people like that though, and I think that the
Mhm.
problem is a lot of people view them, or they'll say mostly women, they'll say, "Oh, they're crazy." Not necessarily. Maybe it's the fact they are, like you just said, they're oversensitive, and they just don't want to deal with your crap. Maybe that's what it is. What I'm saying? It's just like
Fascinating.
it's just so funny because these stereotypical things guys say about women. Say, oh, she's just crazy or whatever. Because some girls are very emotional and some aren't, and it's not that
Sure.
they're crazy. It's just they're more in tune with their emotions than most people are. Is what my thoughts are. And after doing a lot of these episodes, you start learning different things, and that's a lot of things you start picking up on. Is that sometimes it's not that the person is
Mhm.
sensitive or whatever. It's the fact that they're just really in tune with their emotions.
Totally. Oh, yeah. Well, and I think that term of like, oh, that, woman is crazy is also a way to
Hmm.
kind of pigeonhole women as hysterical or overly emotional versus just being who they are, right? Like, yeah,
Yeah, yeah,
yeah,
yeah. That's how society works these days. We got to put labels on everything because if not, we feel like we got to oust it out, and it's just yeah.
I
And
know.
then
I know.
don't even get me started on social media either. It's every
It's
day you open
tough.
your phone, it's something new.
I know. I know. It's true. It's true. It can be overwhelming for sure. The social
So
media thing.
so when did you start your podcast? I mean, I know being a podcaster, it's a lot, but I mean, it had to be something interesting in the beginning.
Yeah. Well, actually, my podcast started in I think the first episode launched in 2018, and
Oh, okay.
m- my goal at the time was to focus on anxiety for women. So it was called Woman Warriors, not warriors, but warriors, because
Uh,
women worry a lot.
I
And
like that. I
I
like that.
dove deep into just why so women are diagnosed with an anxiety disorder twice as often as men. And
Yeah.
so I was like, all right, well, let's look at that. Why is that? Is it just that more women are going to therapy or entering into research? Or is it that there's really stuff happening for women that contributes overall to them being more anxious than men? And so talking about trauma and talking about high sensitivity and all the things that could contribute to anxiety and, I think that was stayed the focus for about 3 years, and then kind of as I evolved and as the conversations I wanted to have evolved, I decided to shift to really focusing the podcast on helping women live their best life. And so all the alternative forms of healing and and different types of therapies, and just also adjusting to life, when your kids are older, stuff like that, that I just really wanted to make the podcast more about that. And so I shifted it to Awaken Your Wise Woman. Excuse me. And yeah, and so now we're on like the 3 years prior, of Woman Warriors was like 1 season, and now I will be recording season 6 starting later this fall. So yeah,
I think
yeah. So
I'm on a
it's really been a
continuous season
journey.
right now. I've been going since September of last year. I don't think
Yeah.
I've only missed like maybe 1 or 2 weeks, but I've have enough interviews set up that it just wouldn't even matter. If I laid them all out and probably into 2026, maybe 2027,
Wow.
possibly, if you did it
Oh my
bi-weekly.
gosh.
But there's
Yeah.
such a high demand for this conversation. It's crazy. I didn't think like when I started mine, it was just gonna blow up like it did, but it did. Like my phone was going off so much, I didn't know what to
Um,
do. I was like, this thing just kept going off. I'm like, what the hell? All these people texting me. I don't know what to do. Like I had like 50 plus people in the first like day and a half that already messaged me that wanted to sign up. The show was
wow.
already booked to the end of the year. By the second week, or the second or third week of the month, actually we started because I started in September going live on the network I'm on now, and
Mhm.
it was just crazy to see how much demand. It's like, well, damn, all right, well, maybe I'll open another time slot. Let's see what happens. Maybe they'll just pick up some of the overflow. Nope. End of the year as well. So, and it was
Wow.
crazy because come November, I'm already out to July of 2025. And I'm telling people this, and people are going, are you serious? I'm like, yeah, only on Mondays, my weekly show I'm usually committed to and everything, which I still do. And out to July now. And they're like, really? I'm like, yeah. So at the beginning of the year, I was like, you know what? I'm just going to pop open the books a bit and see what other conversations I can get into. And from there,
Mm,
it's been a great experience. Like, all these different people I invite to come on, you get all these different views and different conversations, and you find a lot of interesting conversations that happen a lot of times. I've done like I did
yeah.
an episode where I actually read the book of breast cancer memoir woman had wrote, and I was like, it was really good. I read the whole thing. I was like, this is great. I said it got real raw and gritty. So like I don't stir away from any conversations here
Mm,
whatsoever. I talk about everything. Everybody's got something
yeah.
that I legitimately feel makes sense. Like they don't go too extreme. Like I've had a couple people go a little extreme off the tangent. I was like, yeah, I think we're going a little off our base of what we're trying to do here. But I invite everybody to come join this conversation. It's been great. Season wise,
Yeah.
I don't even know how many can break this up in season. Maybe every year is going to be a new season.
Well, and not everybody does seasons. It just worked for me because
Yeah.
the amount of effort and work that goes into doing a podcast,
Hmm.
and like you said, the booking and your time and getting the episodes up and out, like I realized that I needed to take a break from my own stress and anxiety levels. So now I take summers off for the most part. I'll re-release some episodes, but yeah, I'll take summers off and then start new live, or brand new conversations again in the fall. So yeah, I think it's just different for everybody.
Yeah. Yeah. And I do absolutely no planning half the time when I talk to people too. So most of this is just authentically me, which has worked
Mhm.
out just fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
Yeah.
I keep a lot of conversations going, no problem. So I find it very interesting though when people pick certain areas. I like it because I think it's interesting because a lot of people go, oh, well, they're only worried about men or they're only about women. It's like, but yeah, but think about what they're doing for these different groups of people though. Like,
Mm,
these ladies need some help. She's focusing on what these ladies need. Like, obviously, she's fitting a niche. It's just like,
yeah.
anytime you're selling something to somebody, it's like you gotta fill a need for something. Is always the thing they always tell you. Well, you got to fill that gap where somebody needs something, and like yours is focusing on the high sensitive ladies. Mine is mental health, and I cover pretty much every topic and
Yeah.
things like that too. And I think a lot of people don't realize how much extra work goes in because a lot of people tell me they want to start a podcast, and then I give them a list. I'm like, okay, well, here's some things to consider. 10 things on this list, and then they don't come back and talk to you after it.
Well, I
Well,
just read I just read a statistic that most podcasts don't make it past episode 8, that
yeah.
people will do 8 episodes and that's it. That's the
And there's
end.
8, some say 20, they don't make it past that one
Okay.
either, but I think 20 is shooting it for a lot of people because once they get into it, they figure out how much planning it takes for some of these, and it's in you got to
Uh,
storyboard a lot of things, and depending on what
yep.
your topic is, and I tell people the same thing always that I was always told by somebody, it was just stay consistent. Like if you're going to be on a certain time, unless you have to miss it for some reason,
Right.
That's it. Other than that, stay consistent with when you're doing things like drop new episodes on these days and things like that too, and all this other different stuff. And
Mhm.
it's a lot of work, man. People don't realize how much work. Because people ask me if I sleep, and I don't know what that is right now either.
Yeah, it is a lot of work, but it is, as you said, it's really, I find the conversations are what keep me going, right?
Yeah.
It's really
Oh, I agree.
amazing to meet people across the world that are doing great work and have great stuff to share.
So, do you have any publications coming up by chance?
I don't. I've been considering, I write a blog, so that is
Okay.
always being published. So, yeah, so I do a monthly blog. There was a time where I wrote a weekly blog, but I can't keep up with that now either. But, yeah, so I do a monthly blog and, just thinking about how I could use the stuff I've written so far to either put into a booklet or a book, but just haven't taken the leap yet to do that. But yeah, but mostly write about mental health and sort of managing life as it arrives on our doorstep, things that can throw you for a loop and ways to help manage whatever might come up along the way. Yeah.
Right. Oh no, I agree definitely. I had
Yeah.
another
And
question for you. I'm trying to think what it was now. Here it is.
yeah, and I'm
So,
very open. Yeah.
okay, so my question for you is I know you noted as one of the questions you'll answer is why self-care isn't selfish and it's necessary. I think this is a very interesting topic because every time you bring it up, I think selfish is the biggest thing you hear. Do you have a feeling on why people think that that's the reason?
Yeah, well, I think often, um, our culture, it sort of raises us, for many of us that at least live here in the United States, that selfless is really what's important. We should be focusing on other people's needs, that our needs should be subjugated to others. I think for women in particular, that's a theme we hear from young adulthood or whatever, even young child, that other people's needs matter more than ours. And the thing is, like, if we're not taking care of ourselves, how are we going to take care of anybody else, right? Like, if we're struggling, if we are depressed or anxious or have mental health issues and we're putting all our energy into taking care of other people, or even if we have an illness, right? That it's really hard to be a good caregiver or even just be a good friend if we're struggling. And so I think a lot of people see self-care as like, I'm gonna go away for a weekend by myself, or I'm gonna go get, I don't know, a massage every week. But really, it's the small steps that matter the most in self-care. Like, are you eating healthily? Are you hydrating? I can't tell you how many people I've talked to who will tell me, like, "I don't think I ever ate anything till I got home from work today." And I'm like, "You should be nourishing yourself throughout the day." Or, like, "Oh, yeah, oftentimes I'll go, like, the whole day without going to the bathroom." And I'm like, "How do you" 1, I don't know how you do that, but 2, like, that feels like you're not really paying attention to what's happening inside your body, right?
Right.
Um, so getting enough sleep, like, that's a huge, huge, factor in mental health issues. If you're not sleeping well, your body is never having a chance to reset fully and like a computer sort of rebooting, right? So the small pieces of, resting, like, say, during the day, take them home and lay down for 10 minutes. A lot of people really have a hard time with making their own care a priority, and I think that needs to change. I feel like we
Mhm.
really need to encourage everyone to be taking good care of themselves
Yeah. No,
'cause
I agree.
it'll kill us, right?
Yeah, no, I agree. If you don't take time to worry about yourself, you're going to break down and then you're just not going to be good to anybody at that point, and it'll make no
Right.
sense. Like you could worry about all these other people, but it's like, what are you doing for yourself at the end of the day?
Yeah, and it makes you that much better able to to be there for other people. If we're coming at them with our own stress, we're really not that much. We're not being that helpful, if we can't meet them with a full heart and full energy, right?
Yeah. So my next question though for you though is kind of in the same realm. It's, building a loving relationship with yourself. A lot of people don't like themselves. What tips can you give them to try and treat themselves better? Because there's some people out there just hate themselves, do all that negative self-talk to themselves. And I don't like that. Like I don't agree to the whole negative self-talking. Anytime I start doing that, I'm like, no, we don't do that here. We don't do that kind of stuff here.
Yeah. No, I think that's part of self-care too, right? Is to be kind to yourself and treat yourself like you would the other people in your life. But you're right. I think that we've learned from an early age that being critical or treating ourselves with like sort of tough love is the way to make us feel more motivated or something. But often that backfires, right? If we're
Yeah.
yelling at ourselves or criticizing ourselves all the time, that can just, one, create a lot of anxiety, but it also can just shut you down so you don't want to do anything. It's not motivating at all. And I think research is showing that if we can meet ourselves with compassion and care and kindness when we make mistakes or when things don't go well, that we're much more likely to be able to move beyond them and do things differently the next time, right? Like, I can remember, when I first started out as a therapist and talking with my, I'm forgetting what they're called, but like a mentor. So she
Yeah.
was a supervisor, and I felt like a session with a client hadn't gone really well, and I was really dumping a lot of criticism on myself, like, "Oh, I should have." And she suggested, I don't know if you're familiar with Kristen Neff. She's a psychologist, but has done a lot of work on self-compassion. She has a book and a website and does a lot of trainings and stuff. And she suggested I look into that. And like the whole concept of treating myself like my best friend, I was like, what? Like that can't be that's not real. And it shifted. It changed so much for me. Like, I began practicing to meet myself with kindness, with compassion. When I felt that sort of self-critical part chiming in, like, "Okay, I hear that it thinks it's helping, and, can I be kinder to myself in this moment? Can I recognize that maybe I didn't maybe I wasn't as nice as I could have been to that person, but I know I can do it better next time, right? Like, instead of like, "You piece of poop, like, what the hell are you doing?" Like, you know what I mean? Yeah.
You can insert whatever words you like in there for that one, but yeah, no, I get that though. I get the idea of being a teammate with your body because if you don't work with your body's gonna work against you, and you'll start breaking
Mhm.
down and all these other things, And I learned that early on that I did not take great care of myself, and now I deal with a lot of problems now. But I get through
Mhm.
it. It gets better every day. I just it's just getting it done is the part it's just hard for me sometimes. I procrastinate a lot of times when I do things. I'm just like, yeah, I'll get around to it eventually, and then I don't. And I'm like, yeah, I'll do that
Mhm.
tomorrow. It's just but it makes sense though. I mean, you're a team either way you look at it. Because if you're not taking care of yourself, how are you going to get yourself where you want to be? At the same time.
Yeah,
And I
absolutely.
think that
Yeah.
falls into the category too of self compassion and why we need it though. He's like, if you don't have self compassion for yourself, it doesn't make any sense. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Well, I mean, you are your best resource, right? I mean, your
Hmm.
body, your
Yep.
heart, your soul
Yeah.
is your most valuable resource, and we often treat it like it doesn't matter, like it's just sort of, I don't know, like not real somehow.
So I have a question for you though. So if somebody's in a relationship with somebody that happens to be highly sensitive, what are some
Mhm.
tips you can give them to help better deal with them? Sometimes it may be a little too much for people. Maybe give them little tips like, hey, listen, these are some things you can do to make it easier, or things you should look out for to make sure you can try and be in front of it
Mm.
so you can try and manage it so it doesn't get out of hand.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I think one of the best things you can do is to get a better understanding of what being highly sensitive is and recognize through, learning that it's a biological trait. It isn't something we choose to do or not do. It's or feel or not feel. It's just who we are, how highly sensitive people are.
Yeah.
And so there's a I think it's called HSP or hsperson.org has a lot of research and if you think you might be highly sensitive, there's a quiz there that you can take, but it just provides a lot of sort of openness about what it means to be highly sensitive, but also yeah, and to recognize that this isn't necessarily a choice, it's just who we are. But each person who is highly sensitive has different variations of the trait, right? Like for
Yeah.
me as a kid, tactile, like touch stuff, I was super sensitive to different types of fabrics, how clothes felt on my body. And I think it caused a lot of distress for my mother because she never knew what was going to work or what wasn't. So getting dressed each day was a struggle. Um, I think if she had better understood, my personal sensitivities, it would have helped a lot in our relationship, but also it wasn't very well known back then. So,
Right.
and maybe not known at all. I think it was the 80s where it really became more grounded in research and
Yeah,
but so
you got to
to
think about
to
it though, because where you were a child, mental health is different versus today. If you look at
oh,
it, I'm sure you've
huge.
seen a major change in things like that because they didn't know a lot back then. I know that much, from this conversation I've had with other people. It's like if you compare the two, it's like, whoo, man, the things that they thought to what they know now. It just makes you laugh because you're like, well, wow, damn, I didn't know we didn't know this, but that's really what it was. I know like shell shock used to be PTSD, and now I
Yep.
was told that they're trying to change PTSD to PTI, which is post traumatic injury, I believe is what they were saying it was supposed to be, things like that too. And I
Okay.
was like, okay, well, that was interesting. But they're always trying to change all the acronyms. Well, I mean, they did it with what was it, multiple personality disorders, now DID instead, and they changed that
Yep.
one around, and it was just like, okay, well, I get it because multiple personality disorder kind of gives off a little different than what it actually was. And I think I love the point where you point out that it's different in everybody because when you comes to different people you meet with these different diagnoses and things, you find that each one of them deal with different things. You could read these things in a
Absolutely.
book all day, but when this person's physically in front of you, they show different traits versus everybody else. And I thought that was always interesting because we've had some people on the show with interesting characteristics like that. Like we had multiple people
Mm,
who've had BPD, and if you ask
okay.
each one of them, they all had a different answer to how it affects them. Like, one said she questioned herself every single day. She gets to question herself in the mirror. The other one had a different answer. This person had a different answer. And it was so unique because it was so interesting because it's like, okay, well, that's interesting to see because you could read these in a book all day, but now you have the physical person in front of you. This is even
Yeah.
better because now you can see and you can show other people, like, hey, listen, just because she has BBT or he has BBT, it's different for each person that they get different things.
Absolutely. Well, and I think the more we learn about mental health, the greater um, I feel like understanding we have for it. As you said, it's different
Yeah.
for each person, but also, sort of the whole diagnostic criteria can feel for some people it can be a relief like okay now I know I understand myself better and what I need to do to work on myself but there are also downsides to the diagnosis too because there can be especially with like DID right that it may frighten somebody to hear that this person has learned how to dissociate, because of trauma. And reality is, it's just like we all, I believe, we all have different parts of ourselves. Like we have our self, our soul, and then depending on how we were raised and what experiences we had through childhood, different parts of us get activated either in a more extreme way or less extreme way. So I had an incredibly loud, highly critical part for a long time until I learned to understand that it was really just trying to help me navigate the world, right? And didn't want me to get hurt or make mistakes. And so that has quieted down now that I've been working on self compassion. But I think what's interesting is there's a type of therapy, a model of therapy called internal family systems, which is really about working with our childhood parts and our inner child and our all of the parts that within us that work to make us function in the world in a way that helps us feel like we're on top of things, and
Yeah, but
sometimes they're extreme.
what makes it different from other forms of therapy, though? I mean, ISF. What's the difference from everything else? Give people an example so they know what the clear the differences are between them.
Yeah. So with internal family systems, there isn't a they shy away from or have moved away from diagnoses, right? So say for instance, a person with bipolar disorder in internal family systems, they see that person as a collection of parts, right? Like a system of parts. And so within bipolar disorder, you may have a part that's more impulsive and risk taking and but also has moments of also have parts that can be really depressed or sad, and these parts learned how to navigate the world probably from a chaotic childhood. So there are wounded parts that are beneath these more extreme parts that need healing. So basically, the model of the therapy works with all the parts that are out there protecting us, like maybe our extreme, what they call firefighter parts, but like the addictive parts that turn to substances to help us numb, or the dissociative parts that kind of take us out of everyday life because it's just too painful. They see all those parts as super helpful, like, there are no bad parts, and when we learn to work with them within our own system, and often with the help of a therapist, it creates a more balanced system. So those parts are still there, they're just not quite as extreme, and so through that process, you then eventually get to those very wounded childlike parts that have kind of been pushed aside or isolated because their feelings were just too extreme, too deep, too hurtful, too painful. And so then healing those wounds from those child parts releases the system to feel in a way more at ease because those pain points have been healed that have been stored away for such a long time, if that makes sense.
Hmm.
So the the model is really seeing you as a whole person, as a whole system of parts, none of which are bad, but as we get to know them and understand them in kind, compassionate ways, it soothes the whole system to function in a way that feels more uh, integrated.
Yeah. Yeah, it sounds
Yeah.
like it though. I like the idea that they don't do anything with diagnosis because I feel like sometimes people take it and run with it. They'll just say, "Oh, that's well, they use it as an excuse a lot of times. Well, I have anxiety, that's why I can't do this." I'm like, but is it really though? I think
Yeah.
that's just what you're dealing with versus an actual, what identifies you. Because I feel like a lot of people take and run with it a little
Yeah.
too much, and it's like you got to stop.
No.
Like it's something you deal with. It's not something that owns you, and it's not your identity as a person. And I feel like too many people
Right.
do that.
Yeah, just sort of over identifying with the diagnosis. Yeah. No, I
Or they
agree.
run with it
Well,
like, "Oh, I can't do this because I have too much PTSD or something." You know what I mean? Like people just there's some people that
mm,
use it and make it look bad for other people. So when people start coming in contact with these things, like, "Oh, great, here goes another one," kind of thing. And I think that's where the internet makes it worse though, because then you got all these people out there giving out all this advice, and it's like your first question should be ask credentials. Like, what are your credentials for giving me advice right now? It's great that
mm,
everybody has an
that
opinion,
is
but
true.
when you start trying to tell me what to do, if you started off, well, this is my opinion, okay, it's different. But if you just start spouting things out and you've given out some advice to these people, you better have some credentials, because other than that, you're falsely identifying as somebody you're not. You don't have any idea what you're talking about, and then you're giving them bad information, and all these other people have all these problems, and then it's just like it just cycles out of control like an endless spiral, and it's
Yeah.
horrible. It really is. I think social media, people take a little listen to what too many people say, like especially these health influence guys. Like I watch all these videos all day. I see all the time coming across my timeline. The things these guys are saying is just crazy. Like they're just
Oh,
all spouting out
sometimes.
things.
Yeah.
Well, because they
Yeah.
fear
Yeah.
monger a lot of times. They're fear mongering a lot of stuff. A lot of them are
Yeah.
like, "Oh, don't buy this product. I'm invested in this product, so you should go buy this."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Well, and just the lure of becoming an influencer, to be the voice of whatever it is, it is a little scary, like you said. So, what are your qualifications? How did you get to be the person that influences my health or whatever it might be, my mental health?
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
yeah.
no, I agree. I think it's just crazy that then the subject. I don't know if you heard about this though. Chat GPT came up in a conversation I had with Dr. Fujane and I. We were talking about this. She had
Mhm.
told me this incident where Chat GPT was talking, where somebody was talking to Chat GPT, typing some things in, and apparently this person was dealing with suicidal ideation. So this conversation got interesting quick. So apparently, in the
Mhm.
conversation, the person said that ChatGPT basically told them, was giving a list of ways of how to commit suicide. I was like, "What are you doing, ChatGPT? No!"
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. I
I was,
mean, there's definitely, yeah, scary. I think ChatGPT or any AI can be helpful given this however
yeah.
you choose to use it, right? Right. And it should not be your therapist. It shouldn't be your best friend. Like,
Joe, listen what she said. It should not be your therapist. This coming from a licensed person telling you that that is not your therapist. Stop doing that stupid TikTok trend. Because that's where it always starts is
oh,
TikTok, or somebody starts doing it, and then everybody starts wanting to do it too. And it's just like, God, please stop doing it, because that's the situation we run into. And Dr. Vijayna had her own app, and she was like, I have AI built in mine, but she said that was something I was trying to avoid happening. Like she was like, I'm blocking the way to get to these kind of things from happening. And I was like, that was so fascinating when she told me that, because I was like, what? I was like, I haven't heard about that yet, and everything else like that too. And it made
oh
me
yeah.
laugh, because I'm like, hey, yeah, like you didn't really think people were gonna go do Chat GPT, but you forget, people are easily influenced by things. They see these big influencers and go, oh well, if he's doing it, why can't I do it too? And I'm just like, no, stop the sheep like mentality, please.
Well, and ChatGPT or any AI is only as good as the information it's fed, right?
Yeah.
And so if it goes down a dark hole, there's a lot of darkness on the internet. You know what I
Mm-hmm.
mean?
Mm-hmm.
So we have to be mindful of, you know, how can we use it in productive, healthy ways, which I think there are probably some really good benefits to it in terms of easing workflow and stuff like that, but it's not a human.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I agree. All right. Well, we're gonna get to the part of the show we normally get to later on, but Liz has somewhere to be here in a little bit, so we're gonna jump to the really interesting questions. A question I ask comes in from a friend of mine who runs a shop podcast called "The Shit That Goes On in Our Heads." When she and I
Mm.
interviewed, her question to me was, Pete, if your mental health had a song, what would your song be? So my question to you is the same thing. If your mental health had a song, what would that song be?
Oh
Everybody
my
loves this
gosh.
question. I'm telling you, everybody loves this question too.
Uh, well, it's funny because I think my brain uses songs to send me messages about where my mental health is. So sometimes I wake up in the middle of the night with a song playing in my head. I'm
Mm-hmm.
trying to
Me too.
remember what song was playing in my head 2 nights ago, which would not stop. Um, if my mental health right now, God, my brain is not clicking with songs right now. You can't always get what you want, but sometimes you get what you need. Rolling
There you
Stones.
go.
There you
That's
go.
a good one. I like that. No, see, because I asked you that question and they all have the same response. They're like, man, that's a good question. I said, I know, isn't it? It's really interesting to hear people's responses, because when I did mine, I gave them many different answers, but it changes. But I have that same thing though. Like there's some
Do
song
you?
always playing in my head at some point. It'll just start, I'm gonna grab it and just click, and I'll just start randomly singing out loud all of a sudden. Because I work
Yeah.
overnight. So like I work all night most nights, except for Mondays and Tuesdays, or Sundays and Mondays, my days off. So when I'm there, I'm usually just outbursting songs. And this one girl I work with, she goes, "Is that even a song?" Yeah, here you go. It was the Armor hot dog song. Was one of them I got caught in my head. I don't know where this one came from, but I was like, Armor hot dog. I just started singing it across the room. She's like, "What are you singing?" I said, "Oh, the Armor
That's
hot dog
funny.
song. You don't know it? I'm gonna teach it to you tonight. Don't worry. We're gonna learn it together or whatever." And she goes, "Is that a real song?" So I pulled up those old commercials. And she was like, "Dude,
That's
really?
funny.
What the hell is wrong with you?" I'm like, "I don't know, man. I can't tell you. Just, songs just pop in my head and just all of a sudden I get fixated on them and things like that too." So my wife, it annoys her too when I do it because she'll put a song on. If I really like it, I'll just start breaking out the song every so often with it. I come in the store in the morning and she's asleep. There's countless times she said, "Well, I heard you come in this morning." "Yeah? How so?" She's like, "I heard you singing again this morning." I'm like, "Oh, sorry. I got caught in the tune in my head. It was just going. I can't get it out of there. Whatever." She just starts getting mad at me. So, all
That's
right.
funny.
So my next question is, and the whole point of this podcast is, if you could break the stigma about mental health. Now, anything you've heard someone say that just absolutely boils your blood, you're just like, "Stop, dude. Just stop believing this nonsense." What would it be?
I think that we're too old to heal. Like, "Oh, I've been this way my whole life. I'm never gonna get better. I'm never gonna heal." Like, I had all this terrible stuff that happened in my past, and I don't believe that. I think that we can heal at any age. I think that healing is possible for everyone, and I think that's the thing that makes me most crazy.
Yeah, but let me touch on that a little bit for you. Do you think it's because the way that society or someone in their family has influenced them? Because you know that a lot of times it usually comes from the top. Their grandparents taught their parents taught them, and and things like that too. Do you think it's more of it's an environment type thing? Is that maybe that's what they grew up around, thinking, okay, well, you're broken, no way you can help yourself?
Yeah, I do. I do. I think often we are, taught to believe that, yeah, if you're broken, that there's no fixing you. And one, that's a very sad way to look at mental health to me. Like, we're not broken, we're wounded. And can we heal wounds? We absolutely can. And I believe it from the bottom of my heart, I think it's also a lifelong process. Like, if you start healing at whatever age you are, you may not get to a point. I'm not sure I'll ever be at a point where I'm like, "I'm healed. I'm done. I'm finished with this journey," right? It evolves. As new things come into our lives, we may have to address different mental health issues, struggles, right? But that doesn't mean you're not growing and healing and moving forward.
Right, right. Well, I wanted to thank you as we start wrapping up for coming. It was great. I enjoyed having you here. Is
Thanks.
your podcast still going? Or are you on next season yet? How do you release it usually, and where are you at?
Yep. So I'm on all the platforms,
I like it.
but you can find the Awaken Your Wise Woman podcast on Apple or wherever. Um, um, there are episodes up, as you know, like for podcasting, all the episodes are there. I will start recording new interviews at the end of this month. So season 6 will be starting probably by the end of September once I have a bunch of episodes ready to go, interviews ready to go. But there's lots, over 200 conversations that are
There
already
you
there.
go. That's
So it's
awesome.
out
I think
there.
I'm at like, God, I don't even know, man. I'm at 150 at least in less than a
Nice.
year. So I mean, but I've
That's
also done a
awesome.
lot of. I've been recording like 3 or 4 a day. Sometimes it just depends. Like, I just love the conversations. But thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you being here.
Oh,
Well,
you
good luck on the
thank
next
you.
season. I think it's
Thank
gonna be
you.
great, guys. You can tune in, like she said, check her out, go see what she did. And if anybody wants to reach out to you, what's the best way for them to reach out to you? You want to go to your website? I know you're everywhere.
Yeah, yeah. Probably my website's the best place to go. It's elizabethcush.com. Cush is spelled with a C. Often AI thinks it's spelled with a K, but it's not. So if you go to elizabethcush.com, you'll find the podcast, you'll find my coaching website, and that will link you to my therapy website as well.
Well, guys, that's going to wrap up this episode of Pete vs. Anxiety. Once again, thank you so much for coming. I appreciate you being here. It's great. I know we're on a short little time constraint, so we know she has to be somewhere. So we're going to let her go at this point, guys. Well, I'm Pete vs. Anxiety. I'm on everything. I'm on Spotify all the way down to iHeartRadio. I'm on X all the way down to TikTok. And as always says, it costs nothing, absolutely nothing to be kind to somebody. One kind act you can do can save someone's life, or hell, you can make their day. I'm Pete vs. Anxiety signing off saying, hey, don't ask how your day is today. Say, hey, how's your mental health today?